Meghan Markle is facing fresh backlash after launching yet another shameless money-making scheme. Reilly Sullivan is a lifestyle reporter here at skynews.com.au and he's always across the latest celebrity headlines. Reilly, great to see you.
Great to be back.
Meghan Markle has officially launched a new shopping page where her fans can buy her favourite products. But why is this new venture being condemned?
This is a really interesting one. So, as you said, she's launched this new page. It's basically a link through her social media accounts. And this is a very common thing that influencers do, where they can curate a list of products from any brand really. And basically every time one of her followers buys the item, she gets a cut, she gets a commission.
Right.
So Meghan, it's a little bit cheesy because you do think this is a former member of the royal family, essentially trying to make a couple bucks off a product sale. Like, it is very desperate. But, what's really got people kind of outraged actually is that she made this Easter edit. So it was Easter-themed products for kids, for families, and a lot of the products on the page were things that Prince George has worn, like clothing brands, children's clothing brands that Prince George, Princess Charlotte have worn, and they're almost the exact same items or very similar items. And there is this sort of, allegation now that Meghan is kind of using her nieces and nephews to make a bit of money because, of course, the Sussexes protect their own children's privacy. They don't really photograph Archie and Lilibet, but some people think it's quite hypocritical to be sort of selling these products that are very associated with her nieces and nephews. And I do think this is very kind of uncharted territory for a royal.
Absolutely.
And if I was Princess Catherine, I would not be happy about this.
Absolutely. Can you imagine Princess Catherine doing something like that, or any member of the royal family?
I mean, just the hypocrisy of it.
It's unbelievable. Princess Beatrice and Eugenie were among a group of royals who recently travelled to Bahrain for the Formula One Grand Prix. What do we know about the big royal reunion in the Middle East?
Yeah, this is such an interesting contrast from, you have Meghan Markle doing anything to make a buck. Meanwhile, 5 members of the royal family were in Bahrain, living their lives, hanging out, and we didn't really hear about it. Of course, we saw photos and we know about it now, but it wasn't, it's just such a contrast to sort of see someone who is, aggressively pursuing the spotlight and fame and making money versus these actual blood-born royals who are just sort of living a normal life. So yeah, as you said, they were all in Bahrain. It was Eugenie and Beatrice, obviously sisters, best friends. They're always there. They go to the Middle East a lot. They do a lot of business over there. But also Zara Tindall was there, who is of course their cousin, Princess Anne's daughter, and also Peter Phillips. So kind of a bit of a royal reunion. And then just to top it off, Fergie was also there. So there you go. That was 5 members of the royal family in town for the Grand Prix. And, it was just really nice to see them. It was, they looked very relaxed. Everyone was kind of hanging out. And I do think as well, events like the Grand Prix, but especially in places like Bahrain, it does allow the royal family to relax a bit because they aren't necessarily on show and they can kind of enjoy themselves a bit. So yeah, just sort of a nice one. And it's especially nice to see the cousins all hanging out because we know that they are very loyal to King Charles, very loyal to Prince William. There were reports that they've all got a bit of a pact to sort of support the monarchy. And I just think keeping it classy, I loved it.
Absolutely, we love to see it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Prince Harry has reportedly become more distant than ever from his father, King Charles. What do we know about the current state of their relationship?
Look, this was quite a sad update. I mean, there was reports this week in the British press that allegedly Harry was learned about King Charles' recent hospital stay from the media. He wasn't notified that his father was in hospital. Of course, King Charles spent several days in hospital earlier this month related to his cancer treatment. That was sad because we know that they are estranged. And I do think that part of that is probably concerns from within the royal family and from King Charles and Queen Camilla about their privacy. We know that when Catherine was going through her cancer treatment last year, they also kept the Sussexes in the dark because they were worried about leaks. And that is not necessarily to suggest that it would be Meghan or Harry leaking, but I do think that they are surrounded by a group of sycophants and publicity people that maybe inadvertently would reveal something. So I think it's a very complicated situation. I don't think it's ideal for either party. I don't think Charles wants to be, estranged from his son, and I don't think Harry wants to be finding out about his family in the press. But it's just the way it has to be. I mean, they made their decision, and this is a very sort of sad example of that.
Absolutely, it is very sad. Denmark's Princess Isabella has made her first public speech as the Danish royal family continues to celebrate her 18th birthday. What can you tell us about this speech?
Yeah, well, Isabella's really kind of, just sort of launched with a bang. She's made her first public speech. She's just turned 18. Actually, she's celebrating her 18th this Easter long weekend. And she is sort of being, prepared for a life as a royal. She will be a working royal. She'll be very much taking on the role of supporting her brother, Christian, when he becomes the King of Denmark. Of course, Isabella is the daughter of Aussie Queen Mary and King Frederick.
Yes.
And she made her first public speech earlier this week. And it was really kind of, positively received. I think in the Danish press, we were looking at some of the Danish media outlets and their coverage, and also in the UK and around the world. And people kind of love her sort of sense of humour. She kind of made there was this funny line at the start of the speech where she referenced kind of this infamous thing that happened a few years ago where, and this is, happens to the best of us, she was picked up on a microphone kind of having a bit of a tense moment with Mary. And it was this sort of like thing that was hanging over her head for a few years. And people were like, oh, remember that clip of, Isabella snapping at Mary? And then she just sort of said, look, here I am, I'm in front of the microphone. Now I know that the microphone's on.
Now it's on.
Yeah.
So she'll still have a go at her mum.
But, people love that. I think she just sort of, what a masterstroke to just sort of get ahead of it, have a bit of a joke. And, the Danes love that. So,
and at 18, what a big future ahead of her. Reilly Sullivan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.